Hi, and welcome to Dutch the Podcast. I'm Mike Wixon, and right there is the publisher of everything Dutch, I promise you, Tom Byfoot from Dutch the Media. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Mike. How are you? Hey, Mike. Are you hungry?
I am very hungry. Good
Okay,
timing.
because we're going to be talking to some guests, and I would have said if you're not hungry, you will be by the time we're done with them.
Oh, okay. We'll get to that. I'll tell you coming up after the show, we'll tell you how you can get in touch with Dutch the Media, all kinds of great offers for you there, including Dutch the Magazine, all of that coming up. Tom, who's today's guest?
So we've got two guests. They work for Holland Shopping Centre, which is the largest store selling Dutch groceries on the West Coast, based in Vancouver. And we'll listen to two very young ladies who work in the store, have a long Dutch heritage, and still, even 3 generations in, love their Dutch food.
Okay, let's do that. And on the other side of this, some more info about Dutch the Magazine and new articles coming out shortly for you. Let's hear this.
Whenever you're ready.
Hello, we are talking today to Sarah, and I'm going to say the Dutch way. You maybe can say how you say it the English way or the Canadian way. Sarah Slump and Rose Vandergriendt.
Correct.
And hey, that's good, isn't it? Is that how you say it and how you'd introduce yourself?
I just say Sarah
To
Slump,
Canadian people?
but more Canadian.
Yeah.
But
definitely Englishified ours to Vandergriendt.
yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. So we're talking to the two of you because you both work for Holland Shopping Centre, and Holland Shopping Centre is a store that I've been to many times, and there's actually two of them, but you guys can talk about that. But you both work for that, and I think it's one of the best, if not the best, Dutch store that I know in Canada. Now, I hope not too many of the other store owners are listening right now, but I mean that. I always love coming into the New Westminster store, the Chilliwack store, and browsing. But maybe you can just both introduce yourself briefly, what your Dutch heritage is, and what you do at Holland Shopping Centre.
My name is Sarah Slump. Both my parents are born and raised in the Netherlands. They emigrated in 1995, and I was born here in Canada. So I grew up in a very, very Dutch household. Lots of Dutch meals, classic Stamppot boerenkool, like always potatoes, cabbage, meat, classics. And my parents spoke a bit of Dutch growing up around the home, but once we got into school, then they stuck more to English, so it wasn't confusing for us. So I have a little bit of understanding of the Dutch language. I can read it. I can speak it okay. I can understand it pretty well. And yeah, it's my dad who actually owns the company, Holland Shopping Centre, and I've been officially working for the company for about 11 years now. But I mean, I always loved Saturdays asking my dad, hey, can I go on a ride with you? Can I come to work with you? And then he'd be like, I guess, let's go. So I've loved working for the company. It's the only job I've ever had, and I am totally okay with that. I have worked there, since I was 12, 13, and now I'm the general manager of New Westminster and the head purchaser for the company.
That's great. Wow. Congratulations. That's quite the career, really, at 11 years. So fantastic. And Rose, what about you?
Yeah, I'm Rose. I've worked for the company since 2012. So that's getting on 11, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dutch background. My grandparents immigrated. Both of my husband's grandparents were the one to immigrate. Both of my grandparents was the immigrate. So we're both third generation. And basically all of those grandparents had the same philosophy that you're in Canada, you speak English, and you become Canadian. So I think food is one of the only ties I really have to my Dutch culture. It's not an everyday way of life. I don't speak Dutch other than food Dutch from working at the store. Yeah.
Do you understand Dutch, Rose? If you were put on the spot and had to not speak it but understand it?
Depends. I think I would be hard pressed.
It's tough. I can relate to Sarah's experience. Because my kids, I came to Canada pretty much with my family about the same time as your parents did. My kids, 3 of the 4 were born in Canada, so they're very similar. They understand it very well. They speak it reasonably well, but they wouldn't be able to write an academic paper in Dutch. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's talk about Holland Shopping Centre a little bit, and whoever wants to take it. Your parents have been running it for almost 30 years. I looked up, I read up. We did a big article when the 60th anniversary happened a few years back. So your parents took it over, but it was an existing store. How much do you know, and can you share about the history?
Well, I know that it started in 1958. My parents, they emigrated in 1995, and I think they took it over that same year or so. I know that it only started in New Westminster. The Chilliwack location was added by Taco in 2003, 2.
Yeah,
something like
Taco.
that.
Just to be clear, right? That's your dad. That's the owner
Yes.
Owner of the store. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Chilliwack location was an addition that Taco created himself. So it started in New Westminster. There's been, I think, our current location is like our 5th location overall that we've moved. We've moved about 5 times within New West. So we've been in the New Westminster community for quite a long time. So we've got a lot of customers who've been shopping for like years upon years. They've known Taco since he came to Canada. They've known me since I was little. It's very cool. But yeah,
I remember one other location. Sorry, I don't know if you remember that as well, because you're obviously you were like a toddler probably when that move took place. But I remember going there with my kids for Sinterklaas celebrations.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Sinterklaas by the Quay, and then we had we bring it to the store. It was the 2-level store on 8th and McBride here in New Westminster. Yeah. So I remember going to that one as a little kid. That's where I started, and then once I actually started working, it was in the current location.
Yeah, just for our listeners who don't know British Columbia that well. So New Westminster is basically a Vancouver suburb, right? It's part of the Greater Vancouver area. And then Chilliwack is about 60, 80 kilometers towards the interior. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so and Chilliwack has always had, well, not always obviously, but since the 50s immigration wave, a lot of Dutch people, very large Dutch population. Just to set the context a little bit, back to you guys. So you've got the 2 locations, but you also have an online business, right?
Yeah, we do. I think that started also with the Chilliwack store, 2003, 2004. I think that started up pretty soon.
I do remember that Taco was very innovative. He was one of the first the stores to come out with a website and online ordering, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did a lot of focus on that for the customers. I think he had a lot of customers who came in from Kelowna, from Penticton, so from within central BC, and even from the United States, like across the border in Washington, in Seattle, where they're like, I can't get these Dutch goodies. And he's like, well, we got to fix this. We got to get you your Dutch goodies. You don't have to come all the way here every time. And I think that's kind of the mentality he had when he started off the online store. And it took off like a hit. It was busy.
Oh, it was great, because at the time we did live in the interior, and that's about a 4 or 5 hour drive to the store. We'd order from Holland Shopping Centre, and you can't imagine, it was such a party when the box arrived. We put it in the garage, opened up, the kids couldn't wait to get in it. So that was always such a great occasion. So we're talking about Dutch stuff. So what do the stores sell?
So we carry primarily Dutch goods. So almost all the groceries in our store are imported from the Netherlands, whether by ourselves or via a local supplier. And it's a wide variety of candies to cookies to vegetables that are in jars to applesauce, kale. We can't carry fresh produce. because we can't get that in. But it's all, any produce we have, it's all jarred and canned. We've got your classic chocolate sprinkles or hagelslag. We've got a wide variety. And we also do have a deli as well, but all the meats are from local suppliers. And then our cheeses are also imported from the Netherlands. We have a wide variety of Goudas, flavored, mild, medium, spiced, aged. And then we also carry croquettes and frikandellen. But that is at ourselves.
Yeah, you create, or at least you, but do we still run the Maison croquette brand?
Yes. Yeah, and that's still running. Yeah, we've expanded it since it first came out and first started, or we first take it over. But yeah, so the croquettes, frikandellen, yeah, that's all been made by by Teiko and Francis.
In Chilliwack, yeah, I visited the location, and Teiko, of course, served a wonderful frikandel special for me when I was visiting there. So the best you can get. It's just wonderful. So what would you say are the most favorite items, the best sellers for the stores?
Right off the bat, the speculaas cookies in the big red package with the windmills on them. The stroopwafels, the wide variety of stroopwafels. Our candy and our licorice. That is, I had so many customers who come in, go straight to the candy bins and walk on out after they're finished paying. Like, that's all they come for. That's a huge seller.
So licorice, very Dutch thing, right? You go into a store and you have these bulk bins where you get a big scoop and you take a paper bag and you just fill. And how many varieties? Just guess. What do you think you have?
We have had at one point over 100 different types of candy.
That is unbelievable.
If not more.
Yeah.
I think the Chilliwack store has a couple more bins than the other one, so they're riding constantly, probably around the 100 mark.
Yes, definitely.
Wow. Yeah. So 100 separate bins with bulk licorice and other candy as well, but mainly licorice, from salt to sweet. And, do you guys eat licorice yourselves?
Yeah.
Because it's an acquired taste, right?
She started young.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funnily enough, one of the things I bought when I was in the store, I've got friends here in Cranbrook. I'm at the moment I'm in Cranbrook, BC, and she said she loved the Dutch licorice, so I couldn't get it anywhere else. So I picked it up in the store and gave it to her, and she was so excited. So and she's Canadian, born and bred, but it's unusual. Yeah, and it's hard to find. I mean, that's why we have Dutch stores, right? Now, okay, so Rose, you describe yourself as a third generation. Sarah, you're second generation. And briefly, you said, I think, Rose, Dutch food is mainly, or the main thing that you still have about your Dutch heritage. What is the appeal of Dutch food for your generation? I can see for people who immigrated themselves, right? You used to eat in the homeland, your parents or your grandparents made it. Where does your love for Dutch food come from?
Yeah, I think we still have the nostalgia of it. That's what my Oma used to make. It's what, she still eats almost exclusively. She doesn't like to try new things. But you grew up with that kind of stuff, right? And the meals that were typically Dutch that got passed down were the meals that were on the cheaper side of things. People didn't have money to spend on extravagance, and B, they used what you have. And so the beauty of it is they're so customizable to what you have. You can say, I'm making Stamppot. What does that mean? A potato mash with whatever, right? And I don't know, that's the fun of it. So it's interesting to see how you can take a traditional something and turn it into your own. And it's neat to see the comparison between a traditional and your own mix. So it's not like it's cultural appropriation. It's appreciation. Yeah. You're taking something you love, making it your own.
And it becomes fusion that way, right? And one of the big sellers is I presume in the store as well, Indonesian food. Yes. I definitely picked up a lot of that when I visited the store in November. Sambal and group book and things like that. Nasi. Sarah, do you see the same? And the other thing I was wondering, I know your mother, Rose. I don't know about you, Sarah, but do you think your kids will still have that appreciation? Because now we're talking fourth generation.
I would like to think so. I mean, like Rose said, like she grew up having those meals, and so did I. So it's something that, yeah, they're relatively easy to make. So as I'm getting married soon, so I'll be starting my own household soon, and Lord willing, having kids one day. And I would love to integrate those meals and the nostalgia that will come with that, but also just you get what you need with nutrition wise out of those meals too. So I think that they will appreciate it. I hope that they will appreciate it. I know I did. I know, like, I love trying new things. Like, I grew up in a very Dutch household, so I was like, oh, I've never had like sushi or anything like that before. So my friends would like take me out of my Dutch food and be like, let's try something Canadian. But so I think a healthy mix is what's needed. For sure.
Congratulations on the upcoming wedding, Sarah. That's great to hear. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Rose, I've seen your you've even had your kids in the ads you create for the magazine, which I thought was great.
Yeah. It's hard to keep her out of it. I have to take the photos when she's home, and she's constantly trying to snoop and eat everything. We did an Indonesian ad recently, and yeah, she ate all of the peanut sauce that went up with it before I finished the photo shoot.
Yeah,
it was a hit.
Yeah, that's and I'm sure sprinkles and all the sweet stuff. Yes. We put sweet stuff on our bread, which is really weird. Maybe I'll jump back to you, Sarah. So you're working in the store. Is your ambition to stay in the store, to turn a career out of it, or what are your thoughts?
So far, yes. A lot of people tend to ask me, are you going to take it over one day? And I have told them no. It is a lot to take on by yourself. I know Takeo relies on the support of his staff heavily. He couldn't do it without them. And he makes that clear on a regular basis for us. He's very appreciative of us. But to make a career out of it as much as I can, I love my job. I love the people. I love creating the connections with the staff and the customers. I'm a very people person, so it's a great job to have. I work great alongside my father. It's a wonderful working relationship we have. I only recently became head purchaser of the company, so it's a bit of a new change. I was manager of New West for like 5 years, and then now that I'm getting married, we're like, hey, we gotta shift this and try something new. So that's going to be a bit of a change for me. Make a career out of it. As much as I can. I would think, Lord willing, one day I'd love to become a mom, if that's in his plan for me. So I think that would be great. And then if I can continue in the company as long as I can, I will always want to have a part of it. I will always want to see my dad and be like, hey, tell me the updates. What's happening with work? Or, hey, can I pick up a shift if you have time? Or if you need someone to, like, give me a call. Because I love this company. It's a part of my childhood. And I've put a lot of work and energy into it myself as well. And I think
I was wondering about that, Sarah. So obviously your parents have been, or your dad and your mom have been running it for 30 years now, almost 30 years. So they put a very personal stamp on it. They took over a store that existed, but it's not the same store anymore, I would guess. Has your participation made any changes? So have you introduced any next generation Slump initiatives?
That is a great question. I think Rose can probably help out with this too, but I think we've kind of put the younger generation like modern into it and be like, hey, well, we'll handle the social media, or we'll start the social media, because that's not something Takeo can do. He's not in that generation of it, and doesn't have the time for it. I think, it's really nice when Takeo values like my opinion, and he's very open about like what we do at work and the next projects we're going to take on, and how do you think that's going to work? Like, what do you take on it? And I think just working together as a team has always been huge. And he's taken the initial values that he first saw in the company, and he's carried them on. Like, we don't work Sundays because Takeo and Francis, like, they're Christian, they go to church, and they're like, nope, we don't want to work on Sundays. And they've taken that from the old company or from the old owners and kept that in. And you can see in the way they treat their staff. It's very like how they treat him, and they treat him well. And I think, what I've done to the store, I mean, keep it running.
That's one of the main things, right? Yes, and I really admire and think it's amazing how Takeo brings his faith to this as well. And there might be pressure to open up on a Sunday, but no, we don't open on a Sunday, and that's that's what we believe, and we stick to that. And you see those values, I think, also in the way the community is supported by the store. You mentioned it earlier on that you're part of the community. I don't know if there's any other examples, apart from always supporting local celebrations, being there with a booth when there's Sinterklaas, Queen's Day events. Can you talk about that a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, so one of the bigger events, well, we used to be the sole event, like we put on the event of Sinterklaas for the longest time ourselves, but then it got very, very busy. So then we had to just pawn it off to like a community, like a group of like members who were like, we're going to do this, we're going to keep this alive, and then we sponsor and support it. But we no longer run Sinterklaas, but we are a part of Koningsdag. The Dutch network actually puts that on with I think the Dutch Business Association here. And we sponsor that, and it's such a fun event. Like, it's a party. And we often have stroopwafels and poffertjes and croquettes, and we supply that way. And it just keeps, the Dutch heritage alive. And for those who are missing home during those celebrations, if like there's exchange students from the Netherlands work in Vancouver, which you come across as customers in the store, then they have a little moment of home. They can celebrate with their fellow Dutch country folk and then have a big party. And so it's very fun to be a part of. So we like to be part of those kind of events, and every year the same, and support the community charities and stuff too.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. Just a side note. My wife and I were visiting Vancouver. This was in November when I came to the store as well, and we were walking along in English Bay. It was a nice day, and we still speak Dutch to each other. Well, we speak a mixture, Dutch and English. I'm sure that's very recognizable. Sometimes we don't even know whether we're speaking Dutch or English, but apparently we're speaking Dutch, because this young fellow came up to us in his early 20s, and he said, "Oh, you're Dutch." And it turned out he was an exchange student. And you're right, he was all on his own. He didn't know anyone. He just arrived. And I told him about Holland Shopping Centre. So I hope he found his way there. But I certainly hope that come April and King's Day, that he'll be able to join in the celebration.
Yeah.
Rose, I'm going to ask you a very specific question. So just for our readers, Holland Shopping Centre, as always, advertised on the back page of the Krant, our Dutch language newspaper, and Dutch the magazine, the English language magazine that we introduced 12, 13 years ago. And so Rose creates the ads, and I think you should look at them. Just don't just look at the ad as Holland Shopping Centre, I've got to order something then. Just look, they're little works of art sometimes. So I was wondering, Rose, where do you get your inspiration for the ads?
So I got to rein myself in a little bit. Not all my ideas pan out well, and it's interesting to see the the evolution of them. When I started, I saw an advertisement. I got told, "Hey, you're now in charge of this." I've always been a creative person, so that was naturally on my plate. They always look kind of scrapbooky, like made like this. I'm like, that's not really what I do. I want to set something up, take a picture, let you like dive into it. So it's been a lot of that for sure. And it's been fun to try get your ideas and convey them properly. Food is strange. You think you know what it looks like, and then you put it in front of a camera and you're like, that can't be right. It's like, that's strange. I don't know if you've ever seen process work for other people, big companies doing their advertisements, where you put a piece of meat in front of the camera, and if it's cooked, it looks awful. So you basically don't cook it for the actual advertisement. You're adding little bits of browning here and there. Soy sauce is actually your friend to make it look a little bit more brown.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
yeah, it's been fun. Just
Yeah. It's
yeah.
hard to photograph food. I know it can quite easily not look that appetizing.
Correct.
But I loved also when you brought your daughter in. Those are some of the greatest ads. But I'm always excited when I get your new ads, just to see what you're highlighting, because you highlight sometimes you do specific ranges of food, focus on cheese, focus on Indonesian, and sometimes it's seasonal, of course, Christmas time. Just for people who read the magazine, the newspaper, look at that back page and just spend a little more time looking at it. It's fun.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a good effort between me, and I'm constantly in contact with Sarah saying, hey, I have this idea. It's a great idea, but do you have it in stock, or a lot of it? Because I want to make it fabulous. Or I have ideas where, hey, I want to take this product and I want to use it in a totally different situation. Like, it's something crazy. And they're like, but people want to know how to use it properly first.
There have been moments we've had to rein her in with her creativity. We're like, how about you just teach them how to make normal nasi goreng before you go crazy with it?
Yeah. One example was I had the tompuzen, which is a beloved
That's pastry, right? Yeah.
Pastry top, a custardy filling, a puff pastry bottom. It's usually, that's kind of the full of it. I wanted to go crazy with it. I wanted to go savory. I introduced the idea of a bacon jam, which she was not in favor of. Like, okay, I'll give it a small part in the blog post online. Check it out. It's delicious. I promise. But yeah, using the apple strop and bacon and onions, it makes an incredible jam and turn it into something.
That sounds good.
It's very creative.
I did some more traditional ones too, so you can look that up. But
it gives you inspiration. Also, sometimes when you do an ad, I thought, oh yeah, I haven't eaten that for like 30 years. I should try that again. I'm maybe not as adventurous, but I have to say I do use the sambal in almost every dish. I also use it in pasta, like in Italian red sauce pasta. I'd still put some sambal oelek in, and there's other Dutch ingredients that you can use many different ways.
Sure.
So the word Stamppot has come up a few times. Can you maybe briefly explain for our non-Dutch listeners what Stamppot really is?
I grew up on Stamppot boerenkool, which was, you got your potatoes, you dump them in a pot, you boil them up with kale and ideally farmer sausage, good quality. Chuck it in, boil it all up together, and then you mash them. You mash them all together. And it's been fun to see what other families add to this. That's just a basic thing. Some people, they cut up the sausage, they add it in the potatoes, where our family was always, you get a chunk of sausage, you get to curate your perfect bite, take a little slice off the sausage, add the potato on there, and then add your accompaniments with it, whether it's a sauerkraut or pickle juice mixed in with it, or I've tried pickling my own red onions. That's delicious on top as well. You can do kale chips, crispy onions. I read once, I asked online on our Facebook pages what other people did with this, and they had fun with it. They're adding bacon. One person added Parmesan, which I haven't tried yet. It actually sounds delicious. So it's interesting where other people take it as well.
It's the easiest dish to make when you have no idea what to make. And you can even make Stamppot wortels, which is basically potatoes and carrots. And you just mash that up. Two things you almost always have in your home. And you just like boil it, mash it up, add some fried onions on top, like caramelized onions, and you're good to go. And with
that one's great with bacon.
Yeah, with bacon. Like, it's the simplest dish, and it does not look appealing. There's no look of appeal to it, but it tastes fantastic. A hearty meal.
Yeah, and it's especially in winter. It's just sticks to your ribs, right, as they say. I grew up obviously in the Netherlands as well, and my mom used to make stamppot all the time. And one of my favorites was because you said earlier in the show you can use almost any vegetable to make stamppot. One of my favorites was with beets. So beets, and then also little crispy bacon pieces and onion pieces through it or on top of it, and also even lettuce you can put through Stamppot, and it's amazing. So what I'll tell you what my favorite cheese is first. I'll go first. I shouldn't, but I will. My favorite cheese is Frisian clove cheese. And
Okay.
when I come to the store, I'm always sort of got my fingers crossed. Let's hope they have it, because I don't think it's always available. But last time I was there, I just bought 2 big chunks. But what are your favorite items from the store? If you'd say what would you really not want to miss?
Okay, put on the spot first. Look at that. All right. The chocolate hail is always a staple in our house. It gets put on everything. My daughter recently learned that Franklin likes to eat ants and bugs on his things, so she'll sprinkle chocolate hail on it and say she's eating ants and bugs too. Perhaps not the most appetizing way to advertise the food, but there you go. Let's see, your stroopwafels. They're great as well. We turn them into s'mores in the summer times instead of your graham crackers. A beautiful thing. What else? You always got Dutch cheese lying around, whether it's a mild, you can chuck it into your mac and cheese on a bread. It's great in salads. You got your aged, that's perfect shaved on top of a salad, or you make it nice and crispy and you add it to your, almost like a tortilla for a wrap. Good keto. What else? This Christmas, we always had a box of the bitterballen. Yeah, and those are great. You got company coming over. It's something that, I don't know, not everybody has every day. Add a dollop of mustard, curry ketchup, or something like that, and it's a celebration, but it's easy. Like, it's fun.
I've got the curry ketchup in the fridge right here. I picked that one up last. That's also a very Dutch taste, strangely enough. Curry ketchup, yeah.
My favorites, I mean, I have croquettes and bitterballen and frikandel on a regular basis. It is a bonus of working at HSC. You get free lunch in the form of croquettes and deli sandwiches. We have so many different types of Gouda that to pick one is tough. You can't go wrong with a nice sharp aged. I love, like, with a little glass of wine, if you're legal, it's great. But for food wise, my favorite thing lately has been some of the Dutch crackers. And there's a cheese and onion one by Verkade. It comes in a box of a decent roll of crackers, and you pair a nice cheese and a nice meat on that, and you have your little charcuterie board for lunch, and it is so good. We've got Gouda with herbs, Gouda with olive and tomatoes, and we have the Frisian clove in stock right now. Yeah, we found a better supplier.
You know what? I'm getting so hungry through all of this. I'm probably going to go online and after this and put in an order. For the next time I'm coming to Vancouver. That's too far off. That's great. So yeah, do you know, are there any specific plans for the future that, or is it just a matter of, we've got a successful formula, people love us the way we are, we're going to just do more of the same?
Yeah, so I mean, HSC is always looking for ways to expand and improve, especially when it comes to listening to our customers' requests and desires. And we have the mentality of, if we say no too much, I can't get that in, that's very frustrating. We want to be able to get that in for them. So we will go high and low to try to find those items for our customers. So that's a constant development, trying to get the right supplier for that and finding it ourselves. We have recently done some renos in our Chilliwack location. The store is looking great. We've expanded a little bit. We've added some nice stand-up freezers, like what you would see in like Save on Foods. You could open those doors and grab your croquettes and stuff. So it looks fantastic. So the Chilliwack location is really coming along with renos. We actually are part of a wholesale company out in Ontario as well. That's a recent development. It's called HSC Imports. So we've become part of that, which is very cool. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time, but it's been very fun so far. And that's out in Ontario. And every now and then, Takeo has to go on a little business trip out there. But it's very cool. And that's kind of the biggest new thing that we've been a part of. And but yeah, that's kind of it.
Well, no, that's great. I mean, why never change a winning recipe? I'd say so. And it's great to hear that you've got the working with the import agency now, or that you've started or taken part or become partner in an import agency, because that gives you more direct access again to probably a wider variety of products.
Yeah, exactly.
That stirred a memory with me. I think if I were to come to you and I say, there's this one item from the Netherlands that I really miss and I haven't had it for such a long time, but you don't stock it, would you be able to get it for me?
If it is from the Netherlands, then the chances are yes. If it's like a high dairy item, a classic request is chocomel, which for those of you who don't know what that is, it's like a chocolate milk, but it's a little thicker. Think of like a melted down chocolate bar in a jug. That's what it tastes like.
Yeah.
Very popular among our customers, but because of the high dairy content, it's you have to have certain import rights to get that in. So it's very tricky if we can. So as long as it falls under import regulations, then yeah, what I often tell a customer, I'm like, nothing you can't find on the shelf. I'll take your name, I'll take your phone number, the product description, and I'll see when I can get it in for you. Anywhere between 2 weeks if a local supplier has it, or 3 to 4 months if I import it myself.
Wow. Yeah. So that's great, because that means that even if you don't stock it, it's something I really miss, except for chocomel, I suppose. But I mean, you've got to import regulations, and you've got to adhere to those. Of course, that makes sense. Okay. So, I think I've sort of covered what I wanted to ask you, but is there anything else that you guys would like to add that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think just a big thank you to our customers who have been with us for a very long time. We have some customers, I think one of them came in the store and he has turned 94 this year. And I'm like, I've seen him like on a regular basis for the last, I don't know how many years. And I think it's very, very cool. And we feel very loyal customers and very loving customers. And I think we wouldn't be here today without them, and our company would not be what it is without our customers. So I think it's just a big thank you to everyone, customer-wise and staff-wise as well, who has supported us and been a part of the company over the last 10 years.
You raised a topic that maybe I do want to spend another 2 or 3 minutes on. So yeah. Can you describe your customer base? And because you mentioned, the customers who've been coming into the store even since before your parents owned it, probably. Yes. And then there's a fairly active expat, newer immigrant community in Vancouver, at least. Have they found the way to the store?
It is honestly shocking how many times I have someone walk into the store and say, I never knew you guys were here. I've been here for 3 years. I'm so happy I found you. I grew up in the Netherlands, or I just went there on an exchange program for school and I loved their food. Do you have it here? And those, exchange students who are missing home, it is a piece of home for them. And that is such a cool thing we can give them. But our clientele has shifted. It used to be a lot of the older generation, but now their kids and their grandkids are coming in and being like, whoa, I remember this. I haven't had this in years. So it is very cool to see that natural shift in the clientele. But I think it's gone through a healthy range from a younger generation to an older generation, for sure.
Yeah, it's also interesting to see the difference between the two stores. Yes. Sarah's worked primarily in the New West location. I work primarily in the Chilliwack location. Comparing the two, you get lots of foot traffic, single customers coming in, like, wow, I want to try a little bit of everything. This all looks good. And then I come in to work and there's a family. They've all got school. It's a pretty large family. The man's a hard worker. Yeah. They buy a whole wheel of cheese, a whole package of the soup base, and a couple of what they call the staples. And they want that weekly they'll go through a whole wheel of cheese. And so it's interesting to compare the two, where people are willing to explore, and then the other ones play it a little bit safer. And then every once in a while, you see closer to Christmas, they're willing to treat out or something like that. But you also get the customers who ask for specific things. And some interesting things have come up that where someone just says, hey, I had this thing. And suddenly it becomes a staple in our store as well. So to see that progression is amazing. And sometimes people are afraid to ask or approach you and say, hey, can we get this? But especially if you've got a picture of it or a label, an old label. Someone came in with hardly legible label, but we managed to get the brand name and basic ingredients of it. And we found the exact one. They were still making it, so you can get it in. It's neat to see.
The difference in the clientele is huge, and it's very, very cool. Like, some items sell better in New West versus in Chilliwack, and some items I don't sell in New West, and Chilliwack sells it best. And just because you're with city and with country people, such a different mentality between families and like homes and households. And yeah, like you said, with the products, I've had some products on my shelf that if a customer never asked me, I would have never known. And my other customers have benefited from them asking, because I've been able to get it in for them. And now it's stuck on my shelf and I can't not carry it. Otherwise I'll have upset customers.
That's amazing. Yeah. So also you mentioned very briefly then, you don't have to be of Dutch heritage. I mean, people have spent time in the Netherlands, visited there, maybe just on vacation, and if they discovered bitterball, I bet they'll be coming to the store if they find out about it.
If they found their way to Amsterdam and they had a fresh stroopwafel on the streets there or by the canals, then they'd find the packaged ones on our shelves. Or if they've gone to a pub in the Netherlands, or even to their Oma's house and they've had coffee there or a drink at the pub with bitterball off to the side, like, we carry those items. So it brings them back to their travel trips and travel memories when they take a walk around our store and look at all the products. It's very cool to see them.
Now, just to be clear, because before we wrap up, online orders. Do you take online orders from all over Canada, states as well? There's certain items I think you're probably not allowed to ship across the border.
There are shipping regulations, within the borders. But I think we've shipped some things as far as Israel before, and even to the Netherlands, which is so confusing.
Okay.
But each their own.
I was looking at the analytics the other day of the demographics of the people coming in, and a lot of it is Canada, the States. But we're going overseas. There's a large population of Dutch in Australia as well. We've sent a fair bit of stuff there. Their regulations are quite tight, so you have to know what you're doing in that regard. But it's interesting to see who comes to you. And with the online presence, it's such a global thing. There's no barriers to keep you from stopping that. So it's been a process to figure out how to streamline this shipping process to get everybody their things. So,
but definitely, anywhere in the world they can order from you. That's interesting. Yeah, we've just only a few weeks ago I launched a digital only version of the magazine, and I'm hoping to tap into that big Dutch community in Australia as well. Now that we don't have to worry about shipping, because there's one thing paying for shipping for a whole bunch of favorite foods, but if you have to pay the mailing on a magazine that goes to Australia, it's just exorbitant. So that's hard. But in your case, it makes a lot more sense. So that's great. Just remind us, where are the stores and how do we order online?
So we have 2 locations of Holland Shopping Centre. One of them is in New Westminster. It's across the Fraser River, so you got to cross the bridge to get there. Or if you live in Vancouver, you don't have to cross the bridge to get there. We're open 9 to 5:30, Monday through Saturday. We also have a Chilliwack location. It's on Young Road out in Chilliwack, and it's also open 9 to 5:30, Monday through Saturday. And then our mail order, you can order at hollandshop.com, and that's all run out of our Chilliwack location, and that is open technically 24/7. So.
Yeah, and SkyTrain for the New Westminster stop or shop. Which stop would you take?
I would get off of at Sapperton Station. Yeah, It's
And
right down the hill from the Royal Columbian Hospital, if anybody is familiar with that hospital down there.
and then it's a 5-minute walk from the SkyTrain.
Yeah, pretty close by. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Sarah, Rose, thank you so much for joining me on Dutch the podcast. It's been great talking to you, and I wish you both all the best with the Holland Shopping Centre.
Thank you.
Thanks for hosting us.
Yeah,
It was
thanks
fun.
for having us.
Tom, you're right. I am hungry. Thank you.
Even hungrier now. So you know what, we talked to Sarah and Rose, of course, at length about Holland Shopping Centre. And Holland Shopping Centre is a great store, 2 locations, as you heard. But can I do a shout out to some of our other loyal Dutch store advertisers?
I would love that. Please do.
So in the Greater Vancouver area, there's no choice. You go to Holland Shopping Centre in New Westminster, as we heard. But if you happen to be on the island, on Vancouver Island, there's this wonderful Dutch store in Victoria on Quadra Street. Relatively new Dutch immigrants run it. And then, of course, in Ontario, there are loads of Dutch stores. But a special shout out maybe to some of our most loyal advertisers. There's the Dutch Shop in Burlington. There's Raymakers in St. Catharines. Yeah, you've been to the Burlington store, haven't you?
It's so good.
Yeah, and then there's in St. Catharines, don't forget Raymakers. Celebrating their 65th anniversary as we speak is Dutch Toko in Guelph. And I would be totally remiss to not mention a lovely little Dutch store in Acton, run by Caroline Tolkamp. And before I move on, I have to mention, for everyone in Michigan, in the greater Grand Rapids area, Peter's Gourmet Market in Granville is your place to go. Now, remember, most of these stores also do mail order. So if you're in the States, get in touch with Peter's. They'll get your Dutch fix.
Okay, this is not fair, Tom. You know that I was in traffic for a long time. Dinner is still a long way away from me. And now all I can think about is stroopwafel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Listen, as long as we're plugging a thing or two, please reach out to us with any questions you have or feedback at dutchthemedia.com, where also you will find the newly minted digital version of Dutch the Magazine. Congratulations on that. And congratulations to you, because no matter where you are in the world, you now have access to all of these amazing stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Online, and we're putting our whole back catalog online. More than 70 issues by now. Hundreds and hundreds, literally, of articles about the Netherlands, about Dutch people.
DutchTheMedia.com. There is the guy, the Dutch the Media guy, Tom Byfoot. Thank you so much for another great interview and for your time today. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and tell a friend about it, no matter where you're catching the podcast, on YouTube, Spotify, Google. Man, I could go on and on. Apple. There's so many of them, and so many of you reaching out to us through the show. We greatly appreciate it. We'll see you next time here on Dutch the Podcast.
See you next time. Thanks, Mike.